Forgotten Symphony. Olivia readjusted her glasses and reviewed the quarterly projections one final time before her presentation. As the financial analyst for Blackwood Enterprises, precision was expected, especially when reporting directly to the CEO. Her phone buzzed with a message from Patricia, the executive assistant. "He's running late again." Olivia sighed, gathering her materials. Dominic Blackwood's unpredictability was legendary, matched only by his business acumen and charismatic presence. At 36, he transformed his father's failing manufacturing company into a technology empire spanning 3 continents. When he finally swept into the conference room, all tailored suit and apologetic smile, the meeting proceeded with the usual efficiency, until it didn't. "Stay behind, please, Miss Reed," Dominic requested as others filed out. "I'd like to discuss the international projections further." That evening marked the first deviation from their strictly professional relationship. A late dinner discussing expansion possibilities turned into drinks at his penthouse overlooking the river. His intensity when discussing business shifted seamlessly into something more personal, more magnetic. "You see patterns others miss," he told her, "closer now than professional boundaries should allow. It's remarkable." 3 weeks of secret meetings followed dinners, weekend getaways, disguised as strategy sessions, and nights spent in his apartment with the city lights glimmering below. Olivia, usually so careful and analytical, found herself caught in the gravity of his attention. "This isn't just an affair," he whispered one night, tracing patterns on her bare shoulder. "I've never connected with someone like this." And came the morning she stared at the pregnancy test. 2 clear lines destroying any illusion that their relationship existed outside the normal rules of consequence. Olivia rehearsed her approach carefully. This wasn't in her 5-year career plan, but she was 32, financially stable, and despite the circumstances, not entirely opposed to motherhood. She needed to present the situation factually, discuss options rationally. She never got the chance for that conversation. Her email requesting a private meeting was met with a formal response from Human Resources. Mr. Blackwood was restructuring departments. She would now report to the CFO instead. Her access to the executive floor was rescinded due to security protocol updates. When she finally cornered him in the parking garage, his face transformed from the warm, intimate expression she'd come to treasure into something unrecognizable, cold, suspicious, distant. "Dominic, we need to talk about if this is about the transfer. HR has handled it. Your position is secure." His eyes never quite met hers. "This isn't about work. I'm pregnant." The silence between them expanded into something physical, oppressive. "And you believe it's mine?" His voice carried no emotion, just clinical detachment. "Of course it's yours." "Who else would, Olivia?" he interrupted, checking his watch. "I've been through this before. The timing is convenient, given the company's upcoming public offering. You think I planned this? So what, extort you?" Her voice shook with disbelief. "I think this conversation is inappropriate for the workplace. My attorney will contact you to discuss verification procedures and appropriate arrangements." No attorney ever called. Instead, a company-wide email announced Dominic's extended business trip to Singapore for their Asian expansion. When Olivia emailed him directly, the response was a meeting with HR discussing her options, a generous severance package, or reassignment to their Dallas office. 2 weeks later, she cleared out her desk, declining both offers. Her resignation letter was brief, professional, and addressed to the board of directors rather than to him. As she carried the small box of personal items to her car, Patricia hurried after her. "He's a coward," the older woman whispered, pressing a business card into Olivia's hand. "My niece runs a boutique marketing firm. They need someone with your financial background, and they have excellent maternity benefits." Olivia nodded, tears threatening. "Thank you. Will you fight him?" "For support?" Olivia straightened her shoulders. "No, he's made his choice. I'm making mine." Solitary crescendo, the first ultrasound changed everything for Olivia. The tiny, fluttering heartbeat on the monitor transformed her pregnancy from an abstract concept into something profoundly real. She watched, transfixed, as the technician pointed out miniature hands and the curve of a spine. Would you like to know the gender? The technician asked with a gentle smile. Olivia nodded, suddenly overwhelmed with emotion. Yes, congratulations, you're having a boy. A son. She would have a son. Driving home, Olivia found herself talking aloud to the baby, something she'd never imagined doing. It's just you and me, little one, but we're going to be okay. Patricia's recommendation proved invaluable. Horizon Marketing welcomed Olivia's financial expertise, and the smaller company's flexible environment was exactly what she needed. Her new boss, Vanessa Washington, had raised 2 children as a single mother herself and became an unexpected mentor. The first rule of single motherhood, Vanessa told her over lunch one day, is to build your village. You cannot and should not do. This alone, Olivia took this advice to heart. She reconnected with her college roommate, Eleanor, now a pediatrician with 2 children of her own. She joined a support group for single expectant mothers. She even reconciled with her parents, whose initial disappointment gradually transformed into cautious excitement about their first grandchild. As her belly grew, Olivia prepared, meticulously converting her home office into a nursery, researching childcare options and adjusting her budget to accommodate their future as a family of 2. Sometimes late at night, she would catch herself wondering what Dominic was doing, whether he ever thought about the child he'd rejected. Those moments of weakness became less frequent as her due date approached. Noah. James Reed arrived on a stormy April morning after 18 hours of labor. Eleanor held one hand, while Olivia's mother gripped the other. When the nurse placed the squalling, red-faced infant on her chest, Olivia felt something inside her shift permanently. "Hello, Noah," she whispered, counting his perfect fingers. "I've been waiting for you." The first months passed in a blur of sleepless nights, feeding schedules, and the strange new rhythm of life with an infant. Noah had her dark hair but unmistakable blue-gray eyes that reminded her painfully of his father. Despite the exhaustion, Olivia discovered a fierce joy in motherhood she hadn't anticipated. By the time Noah was crawling, Olivia had been promoted to financial director at Horizon. The promotion came with additional responsibilities, including client management for their highest profile accounts. She developed a reputation for creative financial strategies that helped small businesses maximize limited marketing budgets. When Noah was 10 months old, Vanessa called Olivia into her office with exciting news. "We've landed the Atherton Foundation Gala. It's the philanthropic event of the year. Every major corporation in the city will have representatives there." Olivia's stomach tightened, including Blackwood Enterprises. Vanessa's expression softened with understanding. "Yes, Dominic Blackwood is one of the foundation's board members. Will that be a problem?" Olivia considered her options. She could recuse herself from the project, but that might jeopardize her standing with the company. More importantly, she refused to hide or adjust her life because of Dominic's presence. "No," she said firmly, "it won't be a problem. I'll handle the financial oversight for the event. Are you sure?" "I know your history with—" "That's in the past," Olivia interrupted. "I've moved forward. Noah and I are doing wonderfully." The truth was more complicated. Olivia had indeed built a good life, but Dominic's absence remained a wound that hadn't fully healed. Not for her sake, she'd long since accepted his rejection, but for Noah, who deserved to know his father. In the weeks leading up to the gala, Olivia threw herself into preparations. The event would host over 500 of the city's wealthiest and most influential people, raising funds for children's education initiatives. The irony wasn't lost on her. The night before the gala, as she rocked Noah to sleep, he surprised her by clearly saying "Mama" for the first time. Tears sprang to her eyes as his tiny hand patted her cheek. "That's right, sweet boy," she whispered. "Mama loves you more than anything in this world." Tomorrow would bring its challenges, but tonight, in the quiet of Noah's nursery, Olivia felt certain she could face whatever came, including Dominic Blackwood. Unexpected reunion, the Atherton Foundation Gala transformed the city's botanical gardens into a glittering wonderland. Crystal chandeliers hung from ancient oak trees, and thousands of fairy lights illuminated winding paths between exhibits, showcasing the Foundation's educational initiatives. As guests in formal attire mingled among elaborate floral arrangements, Olivia moved efficiently between stations, clipboard in hand, ensuring every financial aspect of the event ran smoothly. "You've outdone yourself," Vanessa commented, appearing beside her. "The budget reconciliation is perfect, even with the last-minute changes." Olivia smiled, adjusting her midnight blue gown. The vendors were surprisingly accommodating. "Speaking of accommodation," Vanessa hesitated. "He's here. Just arrived with the other board members." Olivia's pulse quickened, but she maintained her composure. "I assumed he would be. It's fine." It wasn't entirely fine, but Olivia had prepared herself. She'd even brought Noah, now almost 11 months old. Partly because her regular sitter was unavailable, and partly as a statement to herself more than anyone else, that she had nothing to hide. Eleanor had volunteered to watch him in the staff area where Horizon had set up a small childcare space for employees' children. Olivia checked her watch. She needed to relieve Eleanor soon so her friend could join her husband at the main event. "I'll handle the silent auction tallying," Olivia assured Vanessa. "Should greet the Stevens Group representatives there, considering expanding their contract." As Vanessa departed, Olivia took a steadying breath. She'd successfully avoided Dominic for the first 3 hours of the event. Perhaps she could maintain that streak for the remainder of the evening. The universe had other plans. When she arrived at the staff area, she found Eleanor looking flustered and Noah nowhere in sight. "I'm so sorry," Eleanor apologized immediately. "He was fussy, so I took him for a walk around the quiet exhibition hall. We ran into one of the caterers who knows him from my office visits." Before I could stop her, she'd taken him to see the interactive children's display they set up for the education exhibit. Olivia's heart raced. "Where is he now?" "With the caterer, Josephine. In the main pavilion. I was just about to go get him when you arrived." The main pavilion where Dominic would be delivering his speech as board treasurer in less than 10 minutes. Olivia hurried through the gardens, her heels sinking occasionally into the soft ground. When she reached the pavilion entrance, she scanned the crowd desperately for any sign of Noah. The space was packed with wealthy donors and corporate representatives, all focused on the stage where foundation officials were gathering. Then she spotted Josephine near the front, Noah perched happily on her hip. He was dressed in the little blue suit Olivia's mother had insisted on buying him. Looking around with wide-eyed fascination at the lights and crowd, Olivia began weaving through the audience, keeping her eyes fixed on her son. She was halfway there when she heard the MC introduce Dominic Blackwood, treasurer of the Atherton Foundation and CEO of Blackwood Enterprises. She froze as Dominic stepped onto the stage, commanding the room with his presence, just as he always had. He looked exactly the same, perhaps, a bit thinner, with subtle hints of gray at his temples that hadn't been there before. He adjusted the microphone and began speaking about the Foundation's accomplishments over the past year. Olivia resumed her approach toward Noah, moving more carefully now to avoid drawing attention. She was just 3 rows away when it happened. Noah spotted Dominic on stage and became suddenly animated, bouncing excitedly in Josephine's arms and pointing. Before anyone could react, he called out in his clear baby voice, "Da-da-da-da." Word echoed in the sudden silence that fell over the pavilion. 500 heads turned toward the sound, then swiveled back to Dominic, whose speech had halted mid-sentence. Olivia reached Josephine and took Noah from her arms, her face burning. "I'm so sorry," she whispered to the bewildered caterer. "Thank you for watching him." She turned to make a quick exit, clutching Noah to her chest, when she heard Dominic's voice through the speakers. "Excuse me for a moment, please." The crowd parted as he descended from the stage, moving directly toward Olivia and Noah with purpose in every step. Whispers erupted throughout the pavilion as recognition dawned on the faces of those who knew them both. When Dominic stopped before her, Olivia saw a complex storm of emotions cross his face: shock, confusion, and something else she couldn't identify. Noah, oblivious to the tension, reached out a small hand toward Dominic, smiling his toothy baby smile. "Dada," he repeated, softer this time. Dominic stared at the child, then at Olivia. "Is he?" "Yes," she said quietly. "This is Noah, your son." For a long moment, Dominic seemed unable to speak. Then, to Olivia's astonishment, he reached out tentatively toward Noah, who immediately grabbed his finger with surprising strength. "He has my eyes," Dominic said, his voice barely audible. "In your stubborn streak," Olivia replied automatically. Around them, the crowd continued to stare, but the foundation's director had taken the microphone and was valiantly attempting to redirect attention. "Let's give our treasurer a moment, shall we? In the meantime, I'd like to introduce our education program director, ... Double quotes. Dominic seemed to remember where they were. "We need to talk," his voice low and urgent. "Not here." "I agree," Olivia replied coolly, though her heart hammered in her chest. "But I have responsibilities to finish first." "Of course," he hesitated, then added, "May I hold him before I return to the stage?" The request caught Olivia off guard. After a moment's hesitation, she carefully transferred Noah to Dominic's arms. The child went willingly, immediately fascinated by Dominic's tie clip. "His name is Noah?" Dominic asked softly. "Noah James Reed," Olivia confirmed, watching them carefully. "He's beautiful." The raw emotion in Dominic's voice surprised her. A discreet cough interrupted them as the foundation director caught Dominic's eye, gesturing subtly toward the stage. "I have to finish my speech," he said reluctantly, returning Noah to Olivia's arms. "Will you wait?" "Afterward," Olivia nodded, not trusting herself to speak. As Dominic returned to the stage, composing himself with visible effort, Olivia slipped out of the pavilion with Noah. Her mind raced with questions and apprehension about what would come next. "That wasn't how I planned for you to meet your father," she whispered to Noah, who was already beginning to doze against her shoulder, unaware of the momentous shift he had just initiated with a single word. Fragile Foundations. The gala concluded at midnight, but it took another hour for the last guests to depart and for Olivia to complete her financial reconciliation duties. Noah had long since fallen asleep in the makeshift crib Vanessa had arranged. In one of the garden's private offices, when Olivia finally gathered her sleeping son and her belongings, she found Dominic waiting by the staff exit, his bow tie undone and jacket draped over one arm. The casual dishevelment made him look more human, less like the untouchable executive she'd worked for. "I wasn't sure you'd still be here," she admitted, adjusting Noah's weight against her shoulder. "I told the foundation board I had an urgent, personal matter." His eyes remained fixed on Noah's sleeping form. They were ... understanding, given the circumstances. An uncomfortable silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken accusations and explanations. "My car's this way," Olivia finally said, gesturing toward the staff parking area. Dominic nodded. "May I walk with you?" The night air carried the scent of spring flowers as they made their way down the illuminated path. Dominic maintained a respectful distance, occasionally glancing at Noah with an expression Olivia couldn't decipher. "He calls everyone Dada," she said suddenly. "It doesn't mean anything. It's just a sound he's learned." Dominic stopped walking. "Does he have? I mean, is there someone in his life who know?" Olivia interrupted. "There's no other father figure, if that's what you're asking. It's just been the two of us." They reached her modest sedan, and Olivia carefully placed Noah in his car seat, buckling him in with practiced movements. When she turned back, she found Dominic watching the process with fascination. "He looks exactly like my baby pictures," he said quietly. "My mother would have." He stopped abruptly, pain flashing across his features. "Would have what?" Olivia prompted. "She would have adored him." Dominic's voice roughened. "She died last year. Cancer," Olivia said, and meant it. She remembered how fondly he'd spoken of his mother during their brief time together. Another silence fell, heavier than before. "We should talk," Dominic finally said. "Really talk? Not here? Not now? You both need rest." "But soon." Olivia hesitated, then nodded. "I'm free on Sunday afternoon. Noah naps from 1 to 3 usually. I could come to your place, or anywhere you'd be comfortable." The suggestion of him in her home, the home she'd built for herself, and Noah felt too intimate too soon. "There's a cafe near Riverside Park. Eleanor's Bakery. 1 o'clock? I'll be there," he promised. As she drove home that night, Olivia's mind spun with conflicting emotions. Part of her wanted to cancel, to protect herself and Noah from whatever complications Dominic's reappearance might bring. Another part, the part that watched Noah sleeping in his car seat, knew her son deserved the chance to know his father if Dominic truly wanted to be known. Sunday arrived with unsettling promptness. Olivia arranged for Eleanor to watch Noah. Unable to face the prospect of bringing him to this first real conversation with Dominic, when she entered the cafe, she spotted him immediately at a corner table, staring into a coffee cup with intense concentration. He rose when he saw her, uncertainty written across features that had always radiated confidence. "Thank you for coming," he said as she sat across from him. "I'm here for Noah," she replied, setting clear boundaries from the start. Dominic nodded. "Accepting this, I want to explain to you. Not to excuse what I did, but so you understand, I'm listening." But it took a deep breath. "Before I met you, there was someone else. Clarissa. We were engaged briefly until she told me she was pregnant. I was overjoyed. Started planning everything: nursery schools, our future. Then I discovered she'd been lying. It was no pregnancy, never had been. It was a manipulation to speed up our wedding after she learned about my family's trust fund conditions." Olivia maintained her composure, though her heart ached at the revelation. "So when I told you about Noah, I reacted from that wound," he admitted. "I convinced myself it was happening again. You were like her." "You could have asked for a paternity test," Olivia pointed out. "Instead, you exiled me from your life without discussion." "I was a coward," Dominic said simply. "After you left the company, I told myself it was better this way, cleaner. Then my mother got sick, and everything else just faded into the background." He reached into his jacket pocket and withdrew a small photo album. "After she died, I found these while clearing her house." Pushed it across the table. Olivia opened it to find baby pictures of Dominic, and the resemblance to Noah was undeniable. Same eyes, same serious expression, same dimple in the left cheek when he smiled. "When I saw Noah at the gala," Dominic continued, his voice unsteady, "it was like looking at these photos come to life.
Oh.
I knew immediately, and I realized what I'd thrown away not just with him, but with you. I've built a life without you," Olivia said carefully. "A good one. Noah is thriving. I can see that. You've done amazingly." Dominic hesitated. "I'm not asking to disrupt what you've built, but I'd like to know my son, to be part of his life in whatever way you think is appropriate." "And what happens when you get bored of playing father? Or when it interferes with your business?" "Noah isn't a quarterly project you can abandon when the numbers don't work out." The harshness of her words seemed to physically impact him. "I deserve that," he acknowledged. "But people can change, Olivia. Loss has a way of clarifying what matters. It's there." Conversation continued for hours, moving through painful recriminations to cautious planning. By the time they parted, they had agreed to a careful introduction process, short visits in Olivia's home at first, gradually increasing as Noah became comfortable with Dominic's presence. "I want to provide financial support," Dominic insisted, as they prepared to leave, retroactively as well. "We've managed fine without it," Olivia replied, pride stiffening her spine. "It's not about you managing. It's about my responsibility, one I've neglected for nearly a year." After further discussion, Olivia reluctantly agreed to accept a college fund for Noah, but declined immediate support. "Let's see if you're still around in 6 months," she said. "Then we can discuss more permanent arrangements." As they stood on the sidewalk outside the cafe, an awkward moment passed between them, once lovers, now cautious co-parents, negotiating a fragile truce. "Thank you," Dominic said finally, "for agreeing to this, for raising our son so beautifully, for being willing to give me a second chance with him." "With him," Olivia emphasized, "not with me. That chance is gone." Dominic nodded, accepting her terms even as something like regret flickered in his eyes. "I understand. Wednesday at 4, then?" "Wednesday at 4, she confirmed. "Don't be late." Noah notices patterns quickly. As she walked away, Olivia felt oddly lighter, as though setting clear boundaries had released some of the tension she'd carried for months. Whether this new arrangement would work remained to be seen. But she had done what was right for Noah. The rest would have to sort itself out one day at a time. Harmonious Resolutionaut painted the city in brilliant hues of amber and crimson as summer faded into memory. In the 6 months since the gala, a cautious rhythm had developed between Olivia, Noah, and Dominic. What began as awkward supervised visits evolved into regular Sunday afternoons at the park and occasional dinners at Olivia's apartment. Noah, now 16 months old and toddling everywhere with determined independence, had taken to Dominic with surprising ease. Dada had become a deliberate word in his expanding vocabulary, along with Mama Ball, and an enthusiastic no that he deployed with strategic frequency. On a crisp October evening, Olivia watched from the kitchen as Dominic sat on her living room floor, helping Noah stack colorful blocks into precarious towers. The domesticity of the scene struck her with unexpected force. This was never the future she had imagined during those dark days of pregnancy and early motherhood. "Higher, buddy," Dominic encouraged as Noah carefully placed another block. "Yes. It's steady now." As the tower collapsed, sending blocks scattering across the carpet. Noah's face crumpled momentarily before Dominic scooped him up. "That's how it goes sometimes," he told the boy, bouncing him gently. "We build things, they fall down. We build them again better this time." Olivia recognized the lesson extended beyond block towers. These months had revealed a different Dominic than the one she'd known, more patient, more reflective, more present. Fatherhood had softened his sharp edges and corporate precision, replacing them with a gentleness she hadn't believed him capable of. "Dinner's ready," she announced, bringing the pasta dish to the table. "Can you get him into his high chair?" Dominic efficiently secured Noah, demonstrating how thoroughly he'd learned the routines of his son's life. They ate together, taking turns helping Noah navigate the challenges of spaghetti while discussing their respective weeks. "The Singapore expansion is on hold," Dominic mentioned casually. "I've decided not to pursue it." Olivia looked up in surprise. "But you've been working toward that for years." "It was your father's dream for the company." Dominic shrugged, wiping sauce from Noah's chin. "Some dreams change." The expansion would have meant monthly trips to Asia, weeks away at a time. His eyes met hers meaningfully. "I've missed enough already." After dinner and Noah's bath, a splashy affair that left both Dominic and the bathroom floor soaked, came the nightly bedtime ritual. Olivia observed from the doorway as Dominic read Goodnight Moon for the 100th time. Noah drowsily curled against his chest. When Noah finally drifted to sleep, they retreated to the living room with cups of tea, the comfortable silence of co-parents who had gradually learned to navigate shared responsibility. "I've been meaning to ask you something," Dominic said eventually, setting down his mug. "Blackwood Enterprises is hosting a holiday party for employees' families next month. I'd like Noah to be there, and you, of course." Olivia hesitated. They had carefully maintained separation between Dominic's corporate life and their parenting arrangement. That would make things ... public. "Official? Isn't that what we are? Official?" He leaned forward slightly. "Noah is my son. I'm not hiding that anymore." The implication hung between them, that he had hidden it, denied it, rejected it before. "What about your board? The shareholders? Won't they have questions about why you suddenly have a toddler?" "Let them ask." Dominic's tone was resolute. "I've spent my life building a company at the expense of building anything meaningful. I'm not making that mistake anymore." Olivia considered his request, weighing potential complications against Noah's best interests. "All right," she agreed finally. "We'll come to the party." Relief softened his features. "Thank you." He paused, then added carefully, "There's something else. The lease on my penthouse expires in January. I've been looking at houses in this neighborhood. Houses, plural. I want to be closer to Noah, to be available for school events, doctor appointments, everyday moments. The commute from downtown takes too much time away." The commitment implied in this decision touched something Olivia had carefully guarded against. Over months of co-parenting, she'd maintained emotional distance, protecting herself from the vulnerability that had once left her devastated. "You've changed," she observed quietly. "Having your child reject you entirely tends to prompt reflection," he replied with self-deprecating honesty. "Losing my mother showed me how precious family is. And watching you with Noah, your strength. Your devotion made me want to be worthy of being in his life, both your lives, if I'm being completely honest." The admission hung in the air between them, neither acknowledged nor rejected. As November turned to December, preparations for the holiday party occupied Olivia's thoughts. She found herself unexpectedly nervous about entering Blackwood Enterprises. As Dominic's equal, rather than his employee, and as the mother of his child. The night of the party. She dressed Noah in a festive sweater and herself in an elegant burgundy dress she'd bought for the occasion. When Dominic arrived to drive them, his appreciative glance didn't escape her notice. "You look beautiful," he said simply. The Blackwood Enterprises atrium had been transformed into a winter wonderland, with towering decorated trees and twinkling lights illuminating the space where Olivia had once hurried through with financial reports. Employees with their families mingled around food stations and a central dance floor. Conversations paused briefly as they entered, Dominic carrying Noah comfortably on his hip. If you noticed the curious glances and whispered speculations, he gave no indication, proudly introducing Noah and Olivia to board members and executives alike. Ms. Reed, Patricia greeted them warmly, her eyes twinkling with satisfaction. And this must be Noah. He has his father's eyes. "Thank you for everything," Olivia told her sincerely. "Your help meant more than you know." Later, as a small orchestra played holiday classics, Dominic approached Olivia with Noah drowsing against his shoulder. "Dance with me," he asked, nodding toward a cluster of other parents, swaying with sleepy children. On the dance floor, they moved in slow circles, Noah nestled between them in a tableau of the family they had unexpectedly become. "I've been thinking about something you said months ago," Dominic murmured, "about how I might get bored of playing father." Olivia winced slightly at the memory of her harsh words. "That was unfair. You've proven your commitment many times over." "No. You were right to question it. My track record didn't inspire confidence." His hand tightened slightly where it rested on her waist. "But I need you to know this isn't temporary for me. Being Noah's father, being in your lives, ... it's everything." The music swelled around them as Olivia met his gaze directly. "What exactly are you saying, Dominic?" "I'm saying I want to build something real with you, both of you. Not the fantasy from before, but something honest with all our complications." "And history acknowledged, we don't have to rush. We can take all the time you need." Noah stirred between them, blinking sleepily up at his parents with those distinctive Blackwood eyes. He reached one hand toward each of them, a bridge connecting their separate worlds. "Block tower," he mumbled drowsily.
"Are you build again?"
Olivia laughed softly at the unexpected wisdom from their toddler. "Sometimes I think he understands more than we realize." Dominic smiled, the expression transforming his face into the one she'd first fallen for, not the polished executive, but the man beneath. "What do you think? Should we try building something together, even if it might fall down? A few times before we get it right?" In answer, Olivia shifted closer, within the circle of his arm, resting her head lightly against his shoulder as they continued to sway with their son between them. "I think," she said carefully, "that some things are worth rebuilding. Right reasons, for the right people." Around them, snow began to fall outside the soaring glass walls of the atrium, dusting the city with new possibilities. Noah drifted back to sleep, secure in the knowledge of if he couldn't articulate it, that his world had finally found its balance. The melody continued, and with it, the promise of a future none of them had imagined a year before one built. Not on perfect beginnings, but on the more enduring foundation of forgiveness, growth, and second chances.